Good morning, my dear students. Myself Sandhya Pandey from Jagran Public School. Today, students, we will discuss the chapter Remarkable Rocket. This is written by Oscar Wilde. So, students, in this chapter, basically, there is a story of a prince and princess marriage and the remarkable rocket. So, students, if we'll talk about Oscar Wilde, students, he was an Irish writer and he was born on October 16, 1854 in Dublin. Wilde is still remembered, student, for a personal life as is his excellent personality and his wit and infamous imprisonment for homosexuality. Okay, and throughout his entire life, students, Wilde continued deeply committed in the principles of aestheticism, principles that he expounded through his lectures. He demonstrated through his work as well as anyone of his era. Wilde died in Paris, meningitis on November 30, 1900, at the age of 46, in a very short span of life. So, students, if we'll start the story starts here. Now, the king's son, the prince, is about to marry a Russian princess from Finland, and the court is already beginning to celebrate. The prince is wearing a little, the princess is wearing a little silver cap, and her skin is as pale as snow. So the people of the court, students, proclaim that she is like a white rose. And when she and the princess meet, they are immediately smitten with each other. When he tells her that she is beautiful, her skin blushes red. So, students, in this, Wilde writes this story as a fairy tale and include the typical fairy tale convention of love at first sight. Okay, and however, in light of the court and frivolity of high society, students, Wilde is speaking the perfect romance in a cynical light, as it is just another aspect of dualism. Now, so, students, a clever young page says that she was like a white rose before, but she is like a red rose now. And the students, the that a few days later, the wedding celebration continues. The prince and princess drink from a supposedly magical crystal, whose crystal will cloud grey if anyone other than true lover drinks from it. Now, the page make makes another clever quip, nothing that it is as clear as crystal, and that is that couple are truly in love. Actually, student, the magical chalice is clearly just a regular cup, and however, the whole court buys into this delusion, demonstrating its idealization of true love and romance, while seems to be skewing such idealization which roses to great heights in the wealth of romantic literature that preceded his Victorian era. Now, students, there is to be a royal ball where the king has promised to play the flute for his subjects. The author interjects to say that the king is a horrible flute player. Students, he was not a very good flute player, but as he was a king, then nobody was having nobody was bold enough to tell him so, and always applauded enthusiastically when the king plays. While the belief in the seems to have been held sincerely by the court student as a manifestation of its own ideals. The musical process of the king is a clear farce, and this is the most egregious instance of the court's posturing, flatly lying to gain favor and maintain status. Now, students, since the princess has never seen fireworks before, okay, and the king orders that the firework display be prepared as the last feature for the wedding festivities, and after the royal pyrotechnist finishes arranging and preparing them to be lit, the fireworks begin to talk to each other. Actually, student, Oscar Wilde's abrupt transition from standard fairy tale fare to speaking objects strikes the first note of comic absurdity in the story. Okay, and the Wilde's use of absurd humor predates but strongly parallels 20th century authors such as Kurt Vonnegut and Douglas Adams. So, within the tale itself, student, the comic absurdity will later be carried by the self-aggrandization and musings of both the rocket and the frog. A small cube students admiring the garden that they have been set up in. congratulate himself on having traveled the world, but it is rudely corrected by a Roman candle students who insist that the world is bigger than the king's garden, and in fact it would take 3 whole days to visit thoroughly. At the same time, Catherine Will, who prides herself on being heartbroken and melancholy, bemoans the death of love at the hands of the poet. She and the remain candle by about this. The rocket introduced now the introduction of rocket students, the remarkable rocket. Yes, the introduction of remarkable rocket introduces by coughing sharply as he always did to attract attention. Yes, before he spoke, a cracker cries, "Order, order," to show that he had been involved in parliament. The rocket speaks in a slow, distinguished tone, as if detecting his memories. He never makes eye contact with the person he is talking but stares over their shoulder. Now, the rocket speaking students as if dictating a memoir. It's a memoir, students, not memories. So, memoirs is particularly ironic. Memoirs are meant to be written by individuals who have lived full lives and learned from their experiences. This is memoirs, memoirs. Memoirs are meant to be written by individuals who have lived full lives and learned from their experiences. And the rocket has had no life indeed, has not even entered society, but still consider himself a great source of wisdom and virtue. Now, the rocket reflects on how fortunate it is for the prince that he is to be married on the same day that the rocket is to be set off, regarding it as a great honor for the prince that their days should be coincide. The script contradicts him, arguing that all of the fireworks are to be set off in honor of the prince and not the other way around. So, though all of the fireworks students and the entire court are delusional, the rocket's delusion reaches far greater heights. It requires an astronomical ego to literally believe the world is centered around himself when everyone else clearly sees that it is not. The rocket defies him, explaining that while the rest of the fireworks may have been set up in honor of the royal wedding is most certainly in honor of the rocket's own splendor. This is due to the fact that the rocket is born of remarkable parents, who, according to him, were most impressive and widely talked about after they were let off. According to him, students, according to Rocket, his mother is Catherine Villa. She was a renowned one, and his father was also a rocket, great rocket. And the rocket delusion is largely justified by his belief that his parents were noble rather than on any actual accomplishments, okay, and which is a clear reference to the late Victorian aristocracy of England. It even student holds true for much of modern high society. As he explains his linear students, the rocket misspeaks, saying pyrotechnic rather than pyrotechnic. A Bengal light corrects him, saying that he has the world written on his own canister and so is sure of its spreading. Now, students, the Bengal light is so embarrassed that he began bullying the small fireworks to prove that he is still someone of status. The rocket returns to talking about himself, something he regards as a terribly fascinating subject. He points out his own sensitivity, claiming that it is one of the qualities that makes him so remarkable. When the Roman candle and the cracker share a private joke at the rocket expense, the cracker laughs. The rocket demands to know why the cracker is laughing, to which the cracker answers that he is laughing because he is happy. The rocket finds that this is a selfish reason. Okay. Now, the rocket reflects on great tragedy that it would be for everyone else if anything should happen for him. The prince and princess believes would never know happiness again. He was a very much egoistic type of person, a rocket. Okay, he is, according to him, the prince and princess, he believes would never know happiness again, and the king would suddenly never recover as he considers his own supposed importance. The rocket nearly. Now he started cries. The rocket, the Roman candle and the Bengal light both advise the rocket that he must keep himself dry if he is ever to set off correctly and delight others. They both see this as a common sense. However, the rocket spurns their common sense on the ground that he is very uncommon and is remarkable with a great imagination that never thinks of things as they really are. Now, the students, the rocket ignores everything. The rocket ignores everything and need to keep himself dry, complaining instead that no one can appreciate his highly emotional nature and great sensitivity. He is angry at the other fireworks for laughing and enjoy themselves, just as if the prince and princess has not just not been married. When a little fire balloon suggests that the royal wedding is indeed a reason to be happy, the rocket insists this is a trivial view of life. So, students, once again, the rocket self obsession blinds him to the practical nature of his only function to be lit and not shoot into the air instead of making sure that he can operate properly if wallows in self pity. When a little fire balloon suggests that the royal wedding when a little fire balloon suggests that the royal wedding is indeed a reason to be happy, the rocket insists that this is a trivial view of life. Instead, he muses on the fact that doom could fall on the prince and princess, such as a series of unlikely events that would result in their future. Now, the rocket is again advised to keep himself dry, but indignantly declares that he will cry if he so chooses. He does so, tears streaming down his body and almost drowning a pair of beetles. Meanwhile, the Roman candle and the Bengal lights keep shouting humbug as loudly as they can to demonstrate their disagreement and their own high level of practicality. Actually, student, the royal pyrotechnist and his crew lit the fireworks, which shut off in an excellent display. Each of the fireworks fly into the air and explode, enjoying themselves and delighting the court. The remarkable rocket, however, has so wet himself with tears that his gunpowder is too damp to initiate. Meanwhile, all of the other fireworks are having a wonderful time soaring throughout the air. Every fireworks were enjoying except remarkable rocket. Now, the rocket believes that, but he was a very self-confident or egoistic, whatever. But he was that type of rocket. He was having some type of idea that rockets believe that he was not purposely not set off, and surmises that he is being reserved for an even more special occasion, which causes him to regard himself even more highly. So when the workmen come to clean the court, the next day the rocket sees them coming and believes that they are about to honor him. So he puts his nose in the air and pretends to be thinking very serious thoughts. The workmen initially don't notice him, but when they do, they refer to him as a bad rocket, and what they do and toss him over the palace wall into a ditch. The rocket heard the workmen call him a bad rocket, but surmises that they must have actually said grand rocket. Yes, and as the two words sound similar, he does not like the swamp he has landed in, but assume it must be a fashionable watering place, and he has been sent to rest and recover his nerves. So, as the rocket is thinking about the loneliness of genius and sinking further into the mud, two boys come near carrying bundles of sticks and a kettle. The rocket sees them and once again believes them to be a deputation sent to honor him somehow. So, students, one of the boys notices the rocket and picks him out of the mud, calling him an old stick again. The rocket is convinced that the boy must have said gold stick, which seems to be a higher praise. Now the boys decided to burn the rocket with the other stick so that they can boil the water. And so they built a small fire and set the rocket in bunches of sticks they were having, and they let the fire in it. The rocket exuberant, believing that they are purposefully setting him off in broad daylight so that the whole country will be able to see him. He was very happy, remarkable rocket was. Now the boys fall asleep because of how damp the rocket is. It takes a long while for him to dry out because enough for his gunpowder to igniate, okay, and but eventually it does. The rocket soars into the air, shouting about how high he will fly. And then students, so the rocket soars into the air, shouting about how high he will fly and how his explosion will be so deafening that it is all that is talked about for an entire year. The rocket explodes, but nobody hears it. Even the two boys remain sound asleep. The rocket is reduced to a stick, which falls on the back of a goose, startling her. As the rocket's embers fade, he states that he always knew he would be a great sensation. Then he goes out. The rocket dies, student. In the end, what happens? The rocket dies without a legacy. He pursued his pursuit of fame, his vanity, and his delusion have cost him the single thing that mattered to him, being widely seen and admired. Instead, he dies in obscurity, holding on to his delusion until his last breath. So students, here was the chapter. This was the chapter about remarkable rocket. Remarkable rocket. Hope you got this chapter, student. Hope you will enjoy the. Please write the question answer. Please write the question answer as well as RTCs as it is mentioned in my presentation. Thank you so much, students. Have a nice day.